Hi, Laura. It's so
Hi,
exciting to
Laura.
have you here today. I would love for you to talk to my midlife women audience. Tell them who you are, what you do, and how you found carnivore.
Well, thank you so much, Christine, for having me. And hello to all those midlife women out there. My name is Laura. I am a 4-year carnivore as of January 2026. I found carnivore after changing my way of eating back in July of 2021. But I had changed my way of eating and also had an injury to my left foot that necessitated me to be in a walking boot for 6 months. Yeah. So not only was I changing my way of eating, which was working nicely, I'd lost a little bit of weight, but then I was not able to exercise or do any of the things I normally did. And I was someone who would go to the gym on average 4 or 5 days a week. I was playing 15 hours of pickleball a week. I was biking. I was hiking. I was doing everything, walking even when there was time. So this walking boot necessitated me to be off my feet and doing nothing for 6 months. And while I tried to get a fracture in my left foot to heal, I finally ended up having to get a machine. They call it an exogen machine that sports people end up using, which actually takes calcium from your blood and focuses it to the area of the break. And that finally healed it. So needless to say, I found out about September 14th of 2021 that I had this fracture that I'd been playing and doing all these things on for 6 months and damaging further, and got into this walking boot and didn't get out until February 14th of 2022. In the meantime, so in that period of July through December, I was ketovore, as I called it, meat heavy, a little bit of vegetable, no carb, unless the carbs came from a carnivore type food or eggs, something like that, and the little bit of vegetable, but very low glycemic vegetables. But in the meantime, I had been making keto treats from a certain keto influencer, and I never had a sweet tooth. I never had real sugar cravings until I started messing with these keto foods, these keto treats, and allulose, erythritol, monk fruit, stevia. I very seldom use stevia. I use predominantly the other three. And I went from someone who could have cared less about sweets to somebody who could think of nothing but a sweet treat and when was going to be my next hit. So real sugar had never worked on the addiction center of my brain like these supposedly good for you low glycemic sweeteners. And that's when I found carnivore. And Steak and Butter Gang. I should have mentioned that. That's who I found it with because I know Bella was on recently. So I'm sure your ladies have heard her interview. I had heard an interview with Bella with Ken Berry, and she was talking about her priming protocol and the priming protocol that they teach in the SBG community. And when they said that it will get rid of your cravings, I was all in. So I wanted to find something that could shut off this beast in my head that I had awakened.
Okay, so many things. You said so many things. So, one thing you said that I love that I actually advocate for is way of eating instead of mentioning a diet per se. And
Right.
also, I have so many questions, but I want to go down this rabbit hole. So, could you tell me about priming and is fasting involved in that? And did you gain weight?
Okay. Priming is basically giving yourself the nourishment that your body has always been looking for, which is the reason why we're always looking for the next thing. And I need this. And oh, why do I have it? It's why we have cravings because we are never nourishing the way we have been meant to nourish. So priming in the SBG protocol is basically a 2-week period of time where you are eating 3 or more meals a day until you are comfortably stuffed and satiated. And then you do start cutting back from that 2-week mark after that 2-week mark. But some people have to prime for much longer. Bella, as an example, primed for 6 months. She was so undernourished and, from her 6 years of veganism. And so it's healing your body is what it's doing. And for those people who have, let's face it, it's not all just about weight loss. That might be what brings us here is weight loss, but you are healing so much more when you eat nutrient dense foods that are ancestrally appropriate and what we should have been doing all along instead of listening to all of this nonsense about how fat is bad for us and you shouldn't be eating red meat and this will give you cancer. Well, what's giving you cancer is all that sugar that we're pumping and the carbs that we're pumping into our body. It's not the food that our species evolved on. And if I didn't say it, I did say it, 4-year carnivore. I want to say it again. I am a 4-year carnivore. That is what I believe in. That is what brought me to where I am now. It's what has made me feel the best. It has brought me the weight loss I was trying to find for so many years. It's what has given me the body recomposition that I have. It is eating ancestrally appropriate meat and fat. And in my case, almost zero carb throughout the year.
So, can you tell us how old you are?
I will be turning 72 in August of this year.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
And so you credit Carnivore for this, is that right?
I do. As a matter of fact, I've got a fun fact I'll share with you right now. I recently had a DEXA scan done while I was in Florida because they don't do the full body DEXA scan here in Tennessee. So I had it done when I was traveling and before I came home. And once you input all of your information, so this DEXA scan uses an app and it gives you all the information from your test. And then once you input or allow it to have the information from whatever fitness tracker you use. In my case, I have an Apple Watch. Yes, I do wear my Apple Watch. Anyway, so once it gets all that information, it inputs that with your history and with what it has just seen in that DEXA scan. Fun fact, I was given a biological age of 62 years old. And I'm
Wow,
going to be turning 72 this year.
that's
So
amazing.
yes, I can't, I can shake a stick at that for sure.
So, how active are you now?
I play pickleball a couple times a week. I do spin class once or twice a week. I live near the Smoky Mountains, so I do enjoy hiking. I'm in a very mountainous and hilly area of Eastern Tennessee. I kayak, I paddleboard. I don't do it all the time, but these are things that I do regularly. I also bike, not so much here, but I do a big bike trip every year. The last couple years have been in Italy. And then I will be in Italy again in June of this year on another biking trip. We do bike occasionally in the Smokies during the summer months. There's an area known as Cades Cove. It's an 11-mile loop that they shut down to all traffic on Wednesdays during the spring and summer into fall months here. And so we try to go up there and bike as well. So I do a little biking here, but it's narrow roads and very windy here, so I don't do too much street riding.
Yeah. So, let me ask you, you said that you were active before you started Carnivore. So, how do you think that you feel now being active and okay and healed from your foot fracture compared to before Carnivore and when you were active?
I feel much better now, quite honestly. Not only am I lighter, more muscular, but I don't hurt the way I used to hurt after doing some of these things. Now, hiking here in the Smokies, you do a lot of elevation in a very short time. So you may be sore the next day, but I might be sore for a day or two instead of 4 or 5 days. When I do these bike trips, you might be a little sore the next day, but you're not really feeling it. I really feel like my body recovers so much quicker now than it has in the past ever. And I worked out. I mean, I wasn't someone who worked out my entire life. I probably came into it more in my 40s. Again, trying to achieve weight loss. And it never happened. So that's another thing I'd like to caution is that what I have found and learned with my own body is for those of you that really think cardio is the thing, it's not. And it usually raises your cortisol levels and keeps weight on you. And if a perfect example wasn't my sitting on my behind doing nothing for 6 months and dropping 18 pounds doing it, my youngest son had told me for years that he thought I exercised too much. He said, Mom, I think you're too active. I think you exercise too much. I think you need to back off some of that. And you could have never convinced me of that. I didn't obviously didn't believe him. I just kept doing it. And then all of a sudden here I am forced to sit and do nothing. And had I changed my diet? Yes, but I had been eating pretty healthy before that. What I really did was drop the carbs, probably 90% of the carbs. You figure I was eating under 20, Ketovore would be under 20 grams of carbs, not net carbs. Don't be fooled by that nonsense, ladies, of carbs. And that would be equal to a keto diet and still dropped the weight.
It's amazing. So I want to ask you, like, you said that you lost weight. And so were you going into this to lose weight? And let's go back for a moment to the priming. Did you gain weight doing priming? And did that scare you? Because a lot of women don't want to gain weight.
Okay. Yes, I did. I gained, I think, about 7 or 8 pounds. And now, granted, figure I had lost about 18 before I started priming, gained about 8 back, but then lost more. Lost that 8 and then continued to lose. So altogether, I lost about 30 pounds total. Remember, I'm 4 years carnivore. So that 30 pounds I probably lost within the first year. Some of that weight has come back on. I've gained about 10 pounds of that back, but I have gone down 2 more sizes since then. So it's not all about the weight. It's about your muscle mass. It's about your body composition. Don't be too focused on what the number on the scale says. And I know that's hard for most of us. We spent our life monitoring that. And I still do it every so often for the numbers myself, but I have one of those body comp scales. So I like to, look at how much water, how much muscle mass, how much this, how much that. So I'm looking at it for all of those different metrics. And so, yes, did I gain with priming? Yes, I gained some. Some people gain more. Some people will continue to gain for a while until their body really starts to heal. I do a little bit of coaching for SBG now as well. So I run into this with clients too, and they will continue to gain. Sometimes that might happen over the course of a year. It doesn't mean they're packing on pounds and pounds. It just means that their weight either stays or they go up a little and they kind of stay there. But most of the time, that comes down. But you also have to remember when you are eating ancestrally appropriate and really nourishing your body, your bone mass weighs more, your organs weigh more, your muscle weighs more than fat. So again, even though I lost 30, gained 10 back, I'm down to a size 6 now. And I started 10 pushing 12, sometimes 14. So, or I should say really more on the edge of 12, pushing 14, sometimes a 10 if it was a bigger 10. So it's not just that number on the scale. It's all of what's going on and what's happening inside.
It seems like carnivore is super healing. I talked to Kelly Hogan. Her episode comes out tomorrow on my podcast and on Friday on my YouTube channel. And she talked about losing 80 pounds. And then that's in the first year. And then for 2 years, nothing happened on the scale, but she started noticing that her loose skin was disappearing. And
Right.
so it's like we need to focus on the long game versus the short game because the scale is going to tell you all kinds of lies. Maybe a tape measure would be more honest with you and your clothes and the way you look in the mirror. But I think that people are in it for temporary, quick results and they don't get that and then they give up. But the healing seems for me to be more important. I tell my clients that when you're on carnivore, you're healing so many things. The scale and the weight will be a side effect of how you're nourishing your body and how you're taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to go back to the piece you said earlier about way of eating, this is a way of eating. It's a lifestyle choice. It's a lifestyle change. I don't ever call it a diet. And if people say, so, I hear you're on that weird carnivore diet. I'm like, no, actually, I live a carnivore lifestyle and I live it because I feel the best. And at age going on 72, I feel better now than I did ever in my 50s. And really probably better than I did in my 40s. If I could clearly remember my 40s, I don't know. I had grandchildren coming and kids are all over the place. And who remembers that? I just, I think back to even working out in those days and I was working too, working full time, raising a family. Like I said, my first grandchild was born when I was 48. Life was very busy and actually had a 2 and a 4-year-old when the grandchild was there. No, I'm sorry. I'm not a 2. Sorry. Second and fourth grader, 2 and 4-year-old, second and fourth grader, and then a grandchild. And, we would try to help watch the grandchild, give the parents a break. They were young parents, obviously. And anyway, so yes, yeah, I do. Well, it was my second time at Hack Your Health, first time in Tampa, but I met Christine, I believe, in the front row. We started talking. And I was there actually with SBG to present on Bella's panel on Friday, I think it was. We were talking, but of course, we were in there to meet all the main speakers and listen to their talks. If you haven't been to any kind of a conference like this, I would just like to say that Hack Your Health, I think, is one of the best because it's such a broad spectrum of biohacking and information that I think you get so much more out of it. So anyway, we started talking and you knew who I was, I think, if I remember correctly. You're like, oh, I've seen you on SBG.
I know. And I was like, oh, I see you on, Instagram. It was so exciting to see you in person. Now, let's move over to high fat carnivore. What's your take on that? And what do you do?
I would call myself a high fat carnivore. When I first started in carnivore, I was very much a person who, I was doing chicken breasts and I was doing fish and I was doing, pork tenderloin, the things that I had eaten before. I always liked beef and liked steaks, but a ribeye was never something I wanted to eat. So I was eating New York strips and, flank steak, things like that. The leaner cuts that I had already eaten. But one of the things that had happened when I lost my initial weight and continued to lose weight is it really wreaked havoc with my face. And I looked about 10 years older than I was at the time. And my daughter had asked me at Christmas time if I was sick and hadn't mentioned it. My mother said something to me about it. Well, whatever you're doing, I know you're losing weight, but you look 10 years older. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Mom. So, anyway, but I could see it too. And I just figured that this would be something that would correct itself. I was hoping, but probably about 2 months into being with Steak and Butter Gang is when I started hearing more of the high fat carnivore dogma coming out. And so I thought, well, I don't know. Is that really okay? Is it really okay to do that? I could see eating meat, but I didn't know that I should be eating chunks of butter. And even though Bella is known for that, you didn't see it as much then as you did going forward from that point, or at least I hadn't. So anyway, I thought, I don't know if I could just pick up a stick of butter and take a bite, but I can put some butter in my mouth. My mom always told a little story about when I was about 2 years old. The only thing I would eat was cold hot dogs and cold butter for about a year. She said that's the only thing they could get me to eat. So I think I was always meant to be on this path. So anyhow, I tried a little bit of it. Anyway, slowly but surely, I added more and more fat, and I started eliminating things like chicken and pork tenderloin, which to this day, I really do not enjoy eating anymore. I may occasionally have chicken thighs with skin on, but for the most part, I eat beef and lamb almost exclusively. And of course, the cuts of meat. I still enjoy New York strips, but I love a great ribeye. I love a cowboy ribeye. I love, what's the other one, that the big long bone that we're always, tomahawks. And I do eat, and I love lamb, and lamb is fattier. I do eat tallow. I do eat butter. I just got a shipment of this amazing goat butter from Wisconsin that I had tried through a friend had given me some, and I loved it so much. I actually contacted the company to find out if they would ship to Tennessee, and they did. So I do, and I will eat that along with my ribeye. So, and everyone thinks ribeye is so fatty, but really ribeye is just 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio. So, and women traditionally, because of our hormones and the needs in our body, do better on high fat. So that's what I live with. It did eventually fill in my face. I started looking. I felt a little bit younger again. I didn't look so ravaged. I've eaten that way for 4 years now, or 3.5 years now, pretty much. Every now and then, we talk in carnivore about the need for not no need for tracking because
Mhm.
you're just pretty much eating intuitively. You can only eat so much carnivore food. You can only eat so much fat and so much protein before your body says, I've had enough. But periodically I do track. I'm currently tracking right now because I could tell by certain things with the way I was feeling in that I had a feeling I was going too low fat again. So now I'm really trying to meet that 80/20 fat to protein ratio and actually working on it. So I am tracking currently to make sure that I know where I should be so I can do it intuitively again because I had gotten a little too lean. I was under eating a little bit.
That's where I was going next. So, can you tell us how you track 80/20 to make sure you're eating that for your body?
Okay, I use the Carb Manager app, and it when you input the food that you're eating, and I do have a little scale I weigh, and then at the end of the day or anytime during the day, it has a round circle on it that is giving you your macros. If you tap that, it actually automatically gives you the percent ratio of what you're doing. So it's super fast, super simple. There was somebody on our open chat call in SBG the other day, and she's like, I don't know. I said, well, what if you use Carb Manager? You can just tap that circle and it'll tell you. And everybody was like, you're kidding. We didn't know that. So it's really, really intuitive and easy to use. So if you just put in, and so I will measure either grams or ounces, depending because I am doing high fat, I eat things like steak trimmings. We have a local grocery store here. Only one of our local grocery stores will actually sell me beef trimmings. And so when I know that ribeyes are going on sale, I call them and ask them to save me ribeye trimmings for 3 or 4 days. So I'll come home with 10, 12 pounds of beef trimmings. I cook them down part way until they're a more manageable size. I pour off the rendered tallow and save that for cooking. And I have the beef trimmings then, which have now shrunk, maybe from a bigger piece to a little round or something. And I freeze those and I'll just take out 5 or 6, a small handful, whatever I need to go with the meat. So when you're measuring that, sometimes you have to use grams. You mentioned Kelly Hogan. So one of the great things about Carb Manager is that there are all kinds of macros in there that Kelly has already done and Carb Manager has included. So it's really dehydrate a lot of meat for myself. So I always have some on hand. I have 6 trays of brisket right now that are dehydrating. Kelly already has in brisket, chuck steak, I think ribeye, and a couple other ones that are in there. So you just need to look and see what you need to measure it within. And then I get that gram or that ounces. I input it at the end of the day. There's a little button you tap that says done logging for the day. It sends confetti down showing what you've done. And you tap that circle and it'll tell you how close you got to your 80/20. So at the end of the day, I'll tap that and just take a look. And if I realize that I've been in the protein a little bit too much, I'll go ahead and add some, I'll have a bite of butter or a little bit of tallow or something. I save lamb rendering as well when I cook the lamb, and I make what we call tallow bark, pour off whatever I cook. I usually cook on parchment paper. So the fat's all collected there. If I want to save it for a tallow bark, I just let it cool on the counter until it firms up a little. Then I'll put it in the refrigerator overnight. It's just like when you used to make peppermint bark, or if you've ever had peppermint bark, except here you have a little bit of the meat juices renderings, you got the fat
Mm.
renderings, and you have the salt or whatever seasoning you've used. And it makes a great little snack if you're trying to get in higher fat.
Oh my gosh, this is all so good. So let me ask you, I have a dehydrator as well. I'm not using it right now. I used it to make carnivore bars that were so delicious. I ate them all like in a few days. So I didn't eat anything else because I was like, this is so amazing. But what do you do? So you have the brisket, you dehydrate it, and then how do you separate that? And then how do you make sure you have enough fat to go with it?
Okay. When I trim the brisket, I trim it and I buy the big, can't even see it on camera, the big
Mm.
brisket at Costco. I trim off what I don't want, but I leave the majority of the fat on. Now, if there's a huge, sometimes you'll have a corner that's got like this thick. That's more than you need. But I try to make sure there's a good 1/4 inch to maybe even a 1/3 of an inch of fat wherever I leave it. Sometimes it's a 1/2 inch of fat. It just depends. I cut that down into, I have a smaller slicer because it's a portable one and breaks down. So it fits in this little box. So I can only have certain size chunks of meat. So I cut my brisket into the portions that I need. I freeze it. And then the day I want to actually slice everything down, I'll take a certain number of those chunks out of the freezer. I let them sit on a plate. If I'm going to do it within an hour, I'll let them sit on the counter. Otherwise, I put them in the refrigerator and give them a couple hours to just start to soften a little. You don't want them too soft. And then I slice them from mostly frozen, just thawed a little bit. And then I can get super thin slices that way. I use Redmond's smoked salt.
Mm.
I grind it in a coffee grinder though, and get it to like a real powdery state. And I have a super fine sifter. I sift that over the meat. Cook my dehydrator only goes up to 158. So I cook at 158 for 14 hours for the brisket. And it's super thin and super crunchy and super delicious. And I can almost say I do not have sober behavior around it. So similar to your carnivore bars, Christine, I have to say, okay, you're only allowed so much. And I measure it, as I said, because right now I am tracking to make sure I'm getting the right amount of fat to protein. So I'll allow myself a certain amount, and I try not to have it as a snack, but more as part of a meal. So maybe I come home from pickleball and I'm ready for breakfast finally, and I cook 4.5 ounces of lamb or ground beef. And after that, if I feel like I want a little more, then I'll measure out a portion of that brisket and have it. And it's a great way to wrap up your meal. It's almost like having dessert because of the fat. So again, don't be afraid of the fat. I know that so many women, because of what we've been indoctrinated with our entire lives, is that fat is bad for you. And it's really not. It seems like the more fat I eat, the better I do on the scale.
That's amazing. So does this turn into I know that Audra talks about her dehydrating and hers turn into these chips. They're very thin and very crunchy.
Well, if you do pork loin in the dehydrator, it's very reminiscent of potato chips for sure.
Okay.
I don't do it that often, but I have done it and they are amazing. But those I truly do not have sober behavior around.
I can't eat very
because-
many of these things because it's takes you back and then it tastes so good. You're like, and then, no.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. I actually have pork loin still in the freezer that's ready to go. But I've also we'll just go into one more possibility in carnivore. I've been doing lion diet for just about a month now. Actually, it was a little over a month. I had started when I got back from traveling in February and have now hit that 1 month mark just to see what it would do. Because one of our coaches in SPG community, she basically came back from her deathbed with using lion diet and she's so vibrant, so healthy now. And even though she still has some lupus markers and has occasional flares, she is so much better. It's just unbelievable. And for those people in our community that come in and have definite issues with histamines and certain lupus and certain other health markers, it's one of the best ways of eating that you can use because it's the least anti-inflammatory. So lion diet is only ruminant meat, salt, and water. So very limiting. Definitely, you have to give up your coffee. So I haven't had coffee in a month either. But surprisingly enough, it's just okay, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. That's for me anyway. I just really actually just broke it this weekend because I had a social thing I had to go to. And unfortunately, chicken Parmesan is what was served. So I didn't want to be that rude to a new hostess. So I had a piece of chicken Parmesan and broke my lion diet. But I'm back on it. I figured one night, one meal, it was okay. And now I'm back to eating lion again. And I really am still enjoying it. I thought it would be very limiting and I'd be bored with it. But surprisingly enough, I just alternate the lamb and the beef and I'm really enjoying it. So
So I have histamine and that's what brought me to carnivore. I actually was on a gluten, dairy, soy, peanut, corn free diet. So I had to avoid all those things. And back in 2022, I went to Florida to a conference. And while I was there, I think I got cross contaminated with gluten and I swole up and I had all the sharp pains and all that. And I had to keep going to the event. And then I came home and I was there 3 days, right? Came home and that's how long it lasts usually. And it didn't go away. And so I just kept getting sick every single time I ate. And then a friend of mine who was He was vegan, but he likes to call himself plant-based, and he's carnivore now.
Oh,
And he actually introduced me to Michaela Peterson on the Joe Rogan show, and that's what started my journey. So then I went down the rabbit hole and I found all the carnivores. I did 60 hours of research before I started because I was like, I'm already sick, but I need to do something. So I studied, all the doctors, all the experts, all the women that were my age group. Kelly Hogan was the second person that came up. And I learned that histamine is related to aged meat and ground beef. And I ate pork and ground beef early on in that time. And I had a cold symptoms for 3 weeks. And then I was like, okay, no more of that. So I found flash frozen burger patties that are 80/20, and that's all I eat now. I'm on the lion diet too. So I actually started January 1st, and then on January 1st, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this ice cream, this carnivore ice cream that Kelly Hogan's talking about. And I got really sick. And so my legs broke out. I swole up again. And then I was like, all right, back to lion. And so I've had like a few egg yolks like 3 weeks ago. And then I had butter last Monday because I was trying to reintroduce. And then I was like, I don't really enjoy it. I like it in my coffee. And I was like, I'm not having coffee. So I'm just going to keep going. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing the lion diet for long term to see what kind of healing I can get from it.
and did you, aside from the fact that you stopped with the perpetually runny nose and some of the swelling, did you notice anything else take place for you?
Overall, on carnivore in general, stopped. I just had so many things. So I had a chronic UTIs. I had interstitial cystitis. So both of those have gone away. I had eczema on my legs, and that only comes out if I eat turkey or chicken or any kind of other than red
Okay.
meat. That's what happens. And so I
Yeah.
stay away from all of that. I just stick with beef. I do not like lamb. I don't know if I don't think I'm cooking it wrong. I just don't really enjoy it. I think it's too
Okay.
greasy for me. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. It is, it can be a little on the fatty side. I've discovered these, they're called lamb breast plates. And I found them at Aldi food stores, but in Illinois. And I had brought one home and I had mentioned it on SBG to Todd Bachnis because, he's always cooking and he's smoking this and he's making that. And so and he started laughing. He goes, I just found them too. And he said, they're amazing. You're going to love it. Well, I cooked the first one, but I wasn't real happy with it, but I tried it again. And boy, I'll tell you, I just love them now. And it's basically, once you take the bones out, it's like eating pork belly, except it's lamb. But it is meat and fat layered. But boy, is it unbelievable. When it's good, it's good. So I'm loving those right now. They're just harder to find for me. I guess in Bozeman, Montana, you can buy them at Walmart all the time, but my Walmart doesn't have them. So when I find them at Aldi's, I pray I've got room in the freezer and I buy 4 or 5 of them.
Is it really big?
Now they're in a package about this big, and they're actually once you open it up, it's like this little. It almost looks like the lamb lollipop roasts when you get like the 6 lollipops together, except it's It's actually the rib sections, not wherever they're getting that from. Maybe it's even the same, but it's just cut differently. I don't know, but they're not ginormous. So normally I would eat, if it's a normal size one, I might eat like 4 or 5 of those ribs. But I cook both sections at the same time. And then I'll be able to break it down into 4 or 5 ribs between the 2 pieces and eat it for a couple days. But if it's like the one I made the other day, it was a smaller one and I was hungry and I ate one whole side one day and one whole side the other day. But it does cook down a lot. So I cook it in the oven for about 2.5 hours on a lower heat. And then I finish it in the air fryer and I kind of crosshatch the top so that when you get the salt in there, it kind of gets down. And when you're cooking it, finishing it in the air fryer, it just gives it this amazing finish that's similar to pork belly and very, very crunchy and very delicious.
It sounds amazing. I've never tried pork belly ever.
Oh,
And
no?
I can't eat pork anyway.
Right.
So
I was going to
yeah.
say, and you can't eat pork, so you're not going to have that. But I'm wondering with the lamb you've had, have you tried like leg of lamb versus like the little lamb loin chops that look like baby T-bone
Yeah, I've
steaks?
tried those and I've tried is it lamb shoulder?
Yeah, lamb shoulder can be a little gamier. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
didn't like it
leg
at
of
all.
lamb too, I think you taste the lamb a little bit more. I think in the loin chops, it's the least, and I feel like in these, breastplates also the same thing. I feel like the meat is sweeter.
We have an Aldi's. I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah,
We
you'll
have
have
2
to see.
Aldi's here, so I'll go look.
And their ground lamb is really good too. If you
I
wanna
haven't tried
try,
that.
yeah, if you wanna try their ground lamb, I would highly recommend that too. It's a good price point, and it's very good. I buy it all the time when they have it. It's a
Okay, and
nice
just
change of pace from ground beef. And
yeah.
it's super low in histamine. It should be anyway, because it has very little processing, unlike beef. It's processed quicker, and it's supposed to be better for, histamine intolerance for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna try that. That sounds good. Okay, so I wanna talk about your traveling. You travel and you do cruises and you do all of that. So how do you stay carnivore without feeling deprived or stressed about it? And what are your go-to strategies on that?
So, when I travel to Italy on these bike trips, to begin with, when you're traveling that way, they're setting up our food. I just, in that case, try to stay as carnivore as I can. I do travel with bags of meat, and I do travel with usually one or two of the blocks of Kerrygold butter, also because butter you could just take in and out of. And refrigeration in Europe is much different than our refrigeration. You don't have a refrigerator freezer in every room. You might have a refrigerator that's not very cold, but butter will hold up. I usually travel with at least a bag or two of my dehydrated meat as well. I'm not huge on meat sticks like chomps and things, but if I've got some clean ones available to me, sometimes I'll throw a few of those in. But if I have to go off plan, I have to go off plan, and I don't worry about it. I don't stress about it because I know that when I get back, I am more than happy to return to the simplicity of carnivore and the way I eat. And it doesn't trigger me. The food in Europe too is totally different than what we deal with here. They don't allow a lot of the crap that is allowed in the food in America is not allowed over there. If you have a portion of pasta there, it's this little tiny bit. It's about the size of my top of my fist, and it's in this gorgeous, gigantic ceramic bowl. So presentation is amazing, but it's this tiny little bit of pasta. And because their flour is so different than ours, I don't feel it like I would if I ate pasta here. So sometimes I've even had pasta. I'll even admit to having a gelato or two, but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't trigger me. It doesn't make me feel like that's all I want. And like I said, when I get back, I am so pleased to be back to the simplicity of carnivore. I can't wait to make my first ribeye, honestly. Traveling domestically and on cruise ships, there's nothing easier to stay carnivore than being on a cruise ship because there's meat everywhere. And I'm one of those pain in the rear end people who will go to the staff and say, I don't want my food cooked in seed oil. I only want my food cooked in butter or beef tallow if you have it, which I can guarantee you they don't. But once they think you have an allergy to something, they are right with you to make sure that you have no issues. So, as a matter of fact, if you decide you want to order something that they know they haven't been able to take the seed oil out of, they will tell you you can't have it. But they're very good at, and if I want, their New York strips are about that thick. They're not like this, like we're used to from Costco or our local butcher. So if you need three of them, you order three of them. They don't bat an eye. They don't think twice about it. They bring it to you. If you go to the buffet on the cruise ship, you can ask to have your burger cooked on its own. You just tell them you can't have any seed oils. You have to have the burger cooked in a pan by itself where they're not putting anything on it. And they will accommodate you. The same thing with eggs. We bring them pats of butter. We go to the omelet station. We tell them how we want our eggs cooked, and it doesn't have to be an omelet. I like mine cooked sunny side up. You just bring them the butter and say, I cannot have any seed oil, and they'll accommodate you. And there's no cruise ship yet that I've been on that won't. We went on a Virgin voyage, and I'll be doing Virgin to Alaska in September this year. And they too will work with you. It's a little different there because on Virgin voyages, you're always going to a restaurant, like they're all like Michelin 3, 4, 5-star restaurants on their ships or something. So But you tell them in the beginning, I can't have my food cooked with this, and they will accommodate you.
Yeah, Ben Azadi gave out little "I'm allergic to seed oil" cards for you to take so you can show the people at the
Yes.
restaurants. He has them on his website, so it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I've actually he had them at Hack Your Health, and I
Yeah.
took a stack of them, and I have handed out a number of them. And thank you for mentioning that, because somewhere I put the rest of them away, and I need to find them and get them back out, because I have a lot of friends here in Tennessee. I originally was from the Illinois Chicagoland area. I moved here, didn't know a soul, just about 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years this September, and I've met wonderful friends here. And even though they all think I'm nuts because I only eat meat and I eat fat, they all have jumped on the no seed oil bandwagon. There's four couples, 4 or 5 of the couples have jumped on the no seed oil bandwagon, and they are relentless about finding products that have no seed oils. So when we have our dinner club, as we call it, if there's crackers out, they are no seed oil crackers. If there's potato chips out, they're no seed oil potato chips. They are finding these products, because you're seeing more and more of this now as this becomes something that people are aware of and the companies are aware of. So I figure small steps. Eventually, maybe I'll get some of these gals to agree to eat a pat of butter too. Never know.
Yeah, it's like I talk to my clients about the four horsemen of illness: grains, seed oils, sugars, and processed foods. We remove those over time so that they can actually start to feel better, because I think they are linked more to the menopausal symptoms. We've been told like we have a disease after we hit 40, and now we have, all these symptoms we have to deal with. Well, I like to help my clients get to the root cause, and we do that through removing those and creating a carnivore lifestyle. So I know your time is precious, and I really appreciate you being here. So I wanted to ask you, what is one thing you wish you knew before you started carnivore?
Well, honestly, I wish I knew all of this before I started carnivore. When I think back to the wasted years of my life, and I mean, I say that in a broad statement, but all those years of chasing weight loss, all the years of chasing not being tired, all the years of chasing um, just what you considered to be a better lifestyle for yourself, and following all of this advice that we now know was just a bunch of hooey.
A bunch of stuff.
Yeah, when I remember, so I'm in an age group. You're younger, so you probably don't
I'm
remember
52.
when. Okay, so you were on the border of it. You were younger as a young child. Do you remember when your mother first started bringing home Snackwells because they were
Garbage, junk
fat
food.
free? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had lots of sugar, but we didn't
And they
realize
had lots
sugar
of
was
sugar.
bad.
Yes, and high fructose corn syrup and all this other crap, but it was fat free, therefore it was good for us. So as with the rest of the country, when I believed all these things and kept chasing it, all I did was get heavier, felt worse. And I mean, I did it all. The only time I ever felt really good when I changed my way of eating was when I did the Atkins diet. And I was probably in my, I think, late, maybe early 30s when I was doing that. I must have been little bit older, because my late 20s and early 30s, I was thin, but I didn't think I was thin,
Mhm.
basically, because we all had this, mental picture where we had to be a stick figure. But when I did the first part of Atkins, where you're just eating meat and fat, I did fantastically until I started adding carbs back in. So he knew this a long time ago. He just didn't have the full piece, where once you started adding carbs back in, you were going to start having just gain the weight and have the issues again. Yeah. So honestly, what I wish I knew is that I wish I knew carnivore, that I wish I had heard that word, that I knew anything about it and believed it. I remember even when I first heard about carnivore, somewhere mixed in when I was researching paleo, and I thought, oh, well, that's totally crazy. And I thought paleo was a little crazy too, because again, I was still in my mind is what we had been told and taught. So that's it. I honestly wish that I knew carnivore when I was in my 40s. I always tell Bella, she'll say, oh, you're my role model. I want to be like you when I'm 71. I said, Bella, you got no problems. You started this when you were 20. Imagine what you're going to look like at 50, 60, 70, and how you'll feel.
It's
Um,
gonna be amazing to watch her
yes,
age. I mean,
yes.
she found this so young.
Yes. And we have in the SBG community, we're finally getting more young people. You know, the norm is really probably people over the age of 50 for the most part, but we're starting to get more and more young people who are questioning, you know, they're not, they don't believe the vegan thing. They don't believe it's vegetarian. They're having all these health issues and depression and anxiety, which to me is so sad that that's what their 20s and their 30s. That's what they think their norm is, but they're starting to listen and try this out, and we're getting more and more young people in there, and people who have started carnivore for themselves and have convinced their children in their 20s and their 30s that this is what they need to do, and they're healing and they're doing better and they're getting off their medication and they're not anxious and anxiety ridden anymore. So it's such a powerful movement. If you can believe and trust in the process, that it will come. It might not take you 3 months. It might not take you 6 months. It might take you 3 years. We also believe we see it a lot within the carnivore community because we have a lot of long-term people in SBG that 2.5 to 3 years seems to be a sweet spot in carnivore. If you were following this and staying with it, not yo-yoing back and forth into other things, you really begin to see your body come into its own around that 2.5 year mark to 3 year mark. And then it just continues to get better beyond that.
It's amazing. So, what I'm hearing you say, and we don't want anybody to go off their medication or think that that's an idea. They can work with their personal, their medical professionals. But what is one tip that you would share with a midlife woman who's starting or restarting carnivore and they want to finally stick with it?
Don't be afraid of the fat. That's probably going to be your most important piece. Your body needs it. It's what your brain works on. It's what your hormones work on. If that's the one and only thing you do different is there's actually two things. If you are in any kind of artificial sweetener, get it out. It holds so many people back. It makes so many symptoms continue in people. It's unbelievable when we finally get them to break away from that, the healing that starts. So one, if you're doing that, try and get rid of it. If you're relying on cheese and creams and things, you're basically still feeding an addiction. So can you never have cheese? That's not what I'm saying. Use it as a condiment. If you're having a burger and you enjoy a slice of cheese on your burger, or even 2 burger patties or 3 burger patties, have that slice of cheese, but don't use it as a main food source, which I see a lot of people do. And then don't be afraid of the fat. Add some fat. If it's butter, if you can't tolerate butter, try tallow. Try this tallow bark. I'll be happy to share the link to the Nordic Creamery in Wisconsin. Order this goat butter. It's out of this world. It's like eating ice cream, honestly.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just so good. And it gets better with age. It's funny because I was like, I wanted to order a certain number because I think shipping was like the price of one container, which is nothing. But I just thought, well, if I'm going to order, and I said, how long? I've had one in my refrigerator for almost a year and it's still good. And she's like, whoa, well, you're doing really good with that. And I said, no, it's actually gotten better because it starts to get like a slightly different flavor to it, almost like a blue cheese type flavor if you like blue cheese, but it's not really that. And it's not moldy or anything. Don't be picturing blue cheese, but it's almost like it ferments a little and it gets like this incredible flavor that is so rich. But that's not how it starts off. It starts off, it's so mild and so delicious. And if you are thinking about Lion at all, and in this case, Christine, it might work for you because you are doing Lion. It is so easy to have that. And it's a nice change from trying to have tallow all the time. Did I answer the question?
You can definitely, I'm going to let you include your links for people to get in touch with you. So you can give them that information. And I would love to learn about that too, to see if that's something I could do. Where can women find you and learn more about your content and the community you're in?
Well, I thought I'd do you all a favor and just put it with my name down there. If you type in at laura.lovinlife, there's no G there, notice, I will pop up because I'm usually laura.lovinlife.carnivore, but That's all you need is that opening, and I will pop up on Instagram. It tracks back to Facebook, where you'll see me as Laura Lynch. YouTube, I'm the same thing, laura.loveandlife.carnivore. I don't have a ton of YouTube content, but I do have some things in there where I show things I've cooked, when I've dehydrated meat, what it looks like. Pork belly, if you can eat it. I'm sorry, Christine can't, but I did a great, it's really shows you what the pork belly comes out like when you do it the way I do it. Anyway, and then just some general content, thoughts, whatever. I'm hoping to start doing some interviews as well. I just have to stay home long enough to figure out all that entails. I travel a lot, so I'm in and out all the time. Anyway, it's always lovely to see you, Christine, and I look forward to Meat Stock, right?
Yes, I'm gonna be on
Yeah.
my
So
stock. I'm
just a
coming to the
couple of
dinner
weeks.
on the 1st and the 4th, so it'll be fun.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see you there.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that. What
No,
is going on there?
that's the SBG meetup on July 4th and 5th. And
Oh,
Todd Bachnes is hoping that this year we're going to have the fairgrounds for the 4th, which means an even bigger barbecue and more fireworks. Todd puts on his business puts on this incredible fireworks show for the city of Bozeman. He actually does it for the first responders, really, in Bozeman, but pretty much everybody in town comes to watch it too. And so, if he's doing that, he'll be combining his fireworks with the fireworks that are already being shown at the fairgrounds. So it's probably going to be 2 solid hours of fireworks. If you're into fireworks like I am, you'll love it. Anyway, they have a big barbecue, which is a ticketed event, and you would need a ticket for that. And on the 5th, we have a conference. And I'm not sure who all the speakers will be this year, but and that's a more limited affair. I think that's limited to 150 guests and is also ticketed. But it's the second annual SBG meetup, and
oh
I'll
my
be
gosh,
there
you'll have to
along
send
with
me the
Bella.
details of that.
Okay, I will. I will.
Yeah, amazing.
Actually,
Thank
I'll
you so
include that
much.
link too.
Okay, that would be great, and thank you so much for being here, and if you need any guests once you slow down, I would love to be on yours.
I would love that, Christine, because I know your story is so interesting, and it's nice to share that with everyone. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope your ladies and clients have. I hope I've said something that resonates with any
They're
of you on
gonna get
this.
so much from this interview. It's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Christine. Thank you.